Hi, this is John Tommy Rosas with Tattn and the Tongva Nation, and I'm also making this video through Tattn Media Graphics, and that's tied to our YouTube channel. So where I'm starting today with the Ballona Wetlands Ecological Reserve (EIS, EIR) is there's some complicated issues. So I'm using documents today, no flying. Um, So the issues that I'm researching and I think are important on this is the history of the channel itself and the creek. They call it La Ballona Creek. They call it creek. They still call it creek when it's a channel. Um, so it matters because there's a lot of jurisdictions on what happened and how it morphed into this situation of jurisdiction and who can do what, and that goes to the 408 permit. So I'm gonna go over that, um, but I'm gonna start with this, or maybe I should start with this one. Hang on a second. And we'll notice how cool it is. I can drag documents and graphics between monitors. Anyway, I'm gonna patent it. Don't copy it. Rip me off. Anyway, there's errors in the submittal of the for the 408 permit. That's the one. That's this one that allows them or lets them apply for a 408 permit under the section 408 of the Clean Water Act. Basically, that's not the true name, but that's what we use. Easier to say. But that's the Army Corps' jurisdiction. They must issue a permit, specific one. Now, there's a problem with that and what the county has done with them, and that's another video because I realize it's too complicated to do both. So just bear with me. This is historic and sets up the other one, and they kind of coincide and dovetail. So this video is not for everybody, but if you're interested in how this is being advanced illegally by uh, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Mary Small, and the California Coastal Conservancy, the Santa Monica Bay Restoration, COM, and all, the Bay F's, Bay Foundation, and PLAYA VISTA, and Friends of Ballona Wetlands, so-called, and the rest of them, Heal the Bay, and this coalition they put together. But a lot of them don't understand the history and where this is at, so I'm laying this down. Maybe they'll watch it, maybe they won't, I don't care. This is for, the people that care and care about the wetland restoration, which would be fresh water, as I've documented. And some people have called it, what they're doing is a creation, not a restoration. But if we're going to get technical, it's actually a reversal of a freshwater wetlands, and then they are, negating that, and then creating a without proper, really review under NEPA or CEQA, a saltwater intrusion, which is a 180-degree difference, and that area never had the salt water like they're wanting. So because it's an important area, I think that has to be gone over. But the the modification of the channel to create the saltwater intrusion is a big deal. And I'm going to drag that map up. I got the county parcel map because it shows the parcels. And I want to get into that a little bit too. You can see the parcel lines and who owns it and who has jurisdiction and all that is going to get complicated. And I can explain it. Here's the marina inlet and the harbor, and it goes down here. But you can see all these property line parcel lines, right? Now, in my math, when the state bought the land, you see there's parcels that go all the way up to here, and that's basically what they what Playa Vista apparently sold them illegally to the state, and that's impossible because that land was condemned and by the federal government. And by the way, and I'm not going to get into that, but I have it set up. All this land was condemned as well by the federal government, by the federal agencies for property, and it was pre or right before World War II started. So that's another video about ownership, besides our Indian claims. Anyway, I wanted to bring that up because that's another issue. So I'm going to put that over. All right. Put it back in order. Anyway, getting back to this, the main thing about this is that what they're saying here is inaccurate, and that's why I wanted to show. What they're saying is that the Corps did this and that, and they need to have a permit. That's agreed, but it's not restoration. That's false. It's a reversal of what, because it's all about the salt water. It's a reversal of the known freshwater issues that created the reason why the Corps got involved. I'm going to get into that, but it was never salt water running up the channel. It's so low, that's what it does. We all know that live here that it goes past Centinela, which is a couple of miles, and so they had to deal with that tidal prism where the water goes up. Let me drag this back up. I'm getting people that don't live around here. This water goes way up. That's why I wanted you to see this. You can see how far it goes. There's Centinela, and it thins out, but it goes quite a ways. I mean, up to the 405, I've seen it. You can see it trickle out, but see, it goes, it's a couple of miles. You know, when you look at the whole thing. Switch this. I don't know why I went back to that. Anyway, that salt water goes a long way. So for the fresh water to be available, which it's been cut off since the late 30s, then, and you saw that on the USGS map from 1923, I have and did the video on, that all this salt water is something that's going to go all over this land that they're going to open up, especially Area A and part of B. So let me get rid of this thing. So getting back to this, we don't know who owns the land, but it should be federal. It's a federal project, but the Corps made a deal with the county. Right here it says it to maintain the flood control channel. It is the agency that applies the Army Corps permit. Now, they finally did that, but what they didn't do was, what they didn't do is show that they have an agreement existing on 408 permits. So it also doesn't show that LA County is a proponent of the project. That's in the new notice and the other ones. But the county can't be a proponent for the project when it's a state project funded by state funds, and somehow Mary Small and them wrangled this with their agenda for the flood control, Playa Vista and tsunami control diversion, to enter in the public works and the flood control from county. But they shouldn't have anything to do with this. This should be, if the state did buy it from Playa Vista, which was illegal, that's another story, then it's state owned, and then did the state give control to the county to keep maintaining it. And how did the county become a proponent in this project when it's a state project? And if they're going to list proponents, then they should list opponents too. Anyway, so this is about the, and this is wrong too. They initiated this in 2012, so this is wrong too. And this is from the official website, which is a joke that their own document that they're sending out is defective. It says right here that the permit requires extensive technical analysis and peer review to ensure blah 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 that does not impact flood protection, and completing the 408 process can take several years. They said they made a submittal A, but that was made by Mary Small and the Coastal Conservancy. I'm going to drag that up right now. Hang on a second. I'm going to show you that right here. And you can see right here, this is what they're talking about. This is prepared for the Coastal Conservancy by PWA, who got bought out by ISA during this time. I've been consulting with them since, almost 10 years now, before they were bought out. Here's another phony graphic. But this shows that it's a section, yeah, this is to the Army Corps. It's a letter from ISA and PWA, which is the engineering firm, about the 408, and it doesn't talk about the county. So and this should have really came from California Fish and Wildlife, the State Department, not the Conservancy, and not from this engineering company. But anyway, and Nick, I've been working with him. He's a pretty good guy, but they had a lot of mistakes in their stuff. But anyway, so that's the point about that, is that their submittal on the 408 is here, but they don't show the application, right? Let me get rid of this thing. I'm looking through these. So here's a real application. Now this one's for the bike path. This is a 408 permit to the core LA district, and this is for the bike path change, access encroachment on the levee. Now, if they did this, then why haven't they done this for the wetlands? And when I asked the Corps for it, because I have to consult on it, they said I had to FOIA it. But I figured something out about it. I know why this is a mess, and that's it. Like I said, this is another video that I will do. Let me get rid of this now. So that's kind of the background on that for now. So in 1893, the waters descending from the hills in no defined course, which they were defined, they were natural, reached the Ballona Creek. In ensuing years, however, drained into the transformed residential, the rat race growth, not planned around that. The waters gradually confined to ditches and channels entering the creek. It was a problem, so the city of LA and county flood control district back then acted independently and straightened and widened and deepened the creek and its tributaries and constructed concrete storm drains to improve the drainage. Okay, now, this is from a lawsuit. Urbanization, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so in 33 to 34, heavy rainstorms occurred, swept down Ballona Creek into the lagoon, where because of an inadequate outlet, they overflowed on the properties. So the lawsuit goes into it and how they were sued, and that's what triggered some of the Army Corps participation later. And trying to read through. Yeah, it says defendants are just unapproved. But somewhere it says in here that they basically turned it into a lake. Maybe it's not this one. Anyway, right here it says it was not good. In the opinion of two experts, such a drainage was not good engineering, and the flow of water was obstructed by several bridges across the lagoon and all that. So they got sued about it. Let's see. They also said there was no permits for it, which is funny that the city didn't have permits. But I read a few cases, and maybe I'm getting these mixed up. But I thought there was some stuff in here that said it turned into this large lake. What they're saying, the Court of Appeal said the gist of the complaint is that the respondent constructed it, that's LA County and City, built an artificial drainage that is so defective, carelessly and negligently that it would not carry stormwaters to the Pacific Ocean as designed and intended. So the whole thing was never designed right, and that's important to what we're looking at now, because that's why it's not working down below too. And it said that they had run the water negligently and turned the storm waters into the LA Ballona Lagoon, which was too small to conduct. The water turned into it. Blah blah blah. Anyway, that's that case. Um, okay, so this has the history, and right here it has in 1867. You know, that's a long time ago. That's right after the state got the property from that fake war with Mexico and did the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The floods caused the river channel overflow again, so it happened before. Um, you know, probably in this era, you know, early 60s, creating an immense temporary lake out of, that's where I saw the lake for, out of the Ballona Creek. Now, that could have happened in a few places, but it definitely happened down lower because that's where the name came from, Ballona and the Ballona land grant. So that means there was so much water coming down that it made a lake out of the creek. And maybe that's just how it rolled, but and this is kind of a history of the, oh yeah, I wanted to show something here. In all this flooding, the LA Flood Control District was formed, and that's when they started, and then that's when they started damming and doing all this stuff. Now in 1936, They did a Flood Control Act 1936, the World Army Corps to provide relief and flood control plans. So that there was, and that was a lot of money in those days, 70 million. In 38, 2 years later, the flood control asked Congress for assistance with the Corps, and so they got involved in it way back, and that's when they changed the channel at Ballona. But the Army Corps one was already running. So let me go to the next one. So these are the Ballona Creek levee system inspection reports, but they talk about the defects. What's funny is that the field inspection conducted in this date, this is before the EIS was noticed, but they didn't involve any of this in their prior work. So I'm bringing it up now because they should have, and I'm going to put it in the EIS. They'll have 4 of them from the different sections. But no representatives from LA County Public Works showed up, nor did the Army Corps show up. So I don't know who did the inspection, but the 2 main people didn't even show up, which is hilarious to me, but pathetic. Local sponsors show an active response to operation maintenance of the project. However, some deficiencies were noted and remain experts, blah, blah, blah. They don't even have the operating manual, and I know some people are doing CPRAs on them finally. So they talked about encroachments that were unpermitted. There's a lot of problems with the levees right now. And they go through it, flat gates obstructed. We know some of them are leaking seawater. The rating was at the minimal acceptable system, which is not good. It says revision, extent the levees determined. And they're taking out the lower part by the marina. I'm going to show that graphic right now. So on this levee report, this is the part that they're saying is a navigation structure and is not a levee and will be removed from the database. But the problem with that is that this was here before the harbor was put in. So I don't know how they can do that, but that's what they do. And this shows the drainage area to this side. And then what they did is they show up from one side, and then they have the PLAYA VISTA side. I'm going to show you the next one, but this is what drains into there now, and more. There's water coming down here, but they have this section, and this is what it covers. But it shows area A and C North, C South, and this is the wetland ecological reserve. They want to do the restoration, so-called, but we want fresh water. Anyway, let me go to the next one. So this is a more detailed shot of the station numbers and the channel, this segment. This also has a lot of issues, and all this drains in here. And the other thing this is this is the tsunami zone for this side. Remember, the other side had this in red. This is this side. So they're saying the water comes in from this side. And you can see here where the freshwater forest that PLAYA VISTA and the Fiends built, designed or whatever, mangled. That water drains and dumps into the channel. And that's the fresh water we want to have cleaned up and pumped into these areas so it's real fresh water. So that's that one. This is the one up north of there, northwest, northeast. Same thing. This is all the water that dumps in there. And this is the one north of there. So that's my story on the levees. And I think the telling information is the lawsuit, what was found, the inaccuracy of the Coastal Conservancy documents and engineering. Hang on a second. Yeah, it's this one. I'm going to spend a couple minutes on this and show you the graphics. So we know it's about the 408. A lot of this engineering I questioned, that they have things I found, and so I've been going back and forth with them. They talk about flood criteria. In the county, I don't know why they think they have to approve of it, but that's what they put in there. The governing source, flood source, is the Ballona Creek, which doesn't exist. And this operation manual, they don't have an updated one, but the amount of fresh water that comes down there in a storm event, 46,000 cubic feet per second, that's a lot of water, with a minimum 2 feet freeboard base on the original 35 design. That's when they designed it and fixed it in their mind. But they say here, this guy says here, that the contemporary flood management criteria may need to be applied as a result of permitting, blah, blah, blah. And even if the new criteria represent an upgrade relative to the original, flood flows with or without the project, including anticipated future sea level, which means level rises, have been modeled in a separate vinyl west project hydrology and all that. That's the one I question, because the prisms weren't done right, and then they ended up changing it 2 feet because they were off that much, and so I have that document. But let me flip through this thing. Oh yeah, this is the 2 feet they're off right here, 2.2. These are the numbers that are potentially happening right there. The 100-year tide, which, you know, they're not talking about tsunami, but it's up there. That can happen in a storm event. So, you know, these numbers have been altered 2 feet so they can get their elevations work to dig out that area. So they're using here that core operation maintenance span in 1990. That one we know isn't any good anymore because the levee reports I showed you, they're using the new 2008 and 9 standard. After Katrina, they had to redo them. And these hydraulic modelings have been performed in existing channel conditions, and they based them on recent SOMOS ones, but I wouldn't trust them because SOMOS has done a lot of crooked work out there with PLAYA VISTA. But there's a lot of variables in what they're causing to prove that their math on the sea level is right. And then Coastal Conservancy claims to have a policy that there'll be almost 5 feet of sea level rise in, you know, 100 years, 93 years. So to me, them bringing the water into that area, that increases the salt water like the sea level rise already occurred. So they're claiming to help divert it and slow it down, and they're actually accelerating it by letting the seawater come in by excavating the dirt. They're accounting for sea level rise by doing the exact opposite you should do. So that's just their BS about how they're justifying this, you know, illegal project. Anyway, a lot of these numbers I don't agree with. The grade, you know, the elevations, the GPS. I'll flip through this to get some of these graphics. Here we go. So this is the claim property boundary. For the Ballona wetlands. But they're claiming the channel, you see? That's why I wanted to show this one. They're claiming they own the channel up here, and this is a different parcel than here. So PLAYA VISTA somehow crookedly sold them, and I did the math on this. It's 83 acres that this occupies, and I think I'm pretty close. But this is 83 acres of land that the state bought, and I don't know how PLAYA VISTA thinks they owned it, because this was condemned land, and there was litigation about it, and I have the condemnation eminent domain document. Also, this was federal land, as was the marina, and so that land was transferred, but it didn't include the creek, and I have those documents too. So there's something really crooked about how PLAYA VISTA, PLAYA Capital Corp, whatever you want to call them, this development here, sold the state that property through TPL, Trust for Public Land. Pretty crooked. Anyway, that's another video, really. Wait for this thing to switch. I'm going to put it on PDF so it's easy to read. Here we go. This shows what they're causing. This will all be water right here. That water is never, the salt water is never that low, and the fresh water, it floats on top of seawater, so it's always going to be above it. So I don't know what they're drinking, but they're smoking, but it's not accurate. Anyway, that graphic's hanging out. I'm going to get rid of it. We have too much writing on this computer. Anyway, so that's my 2 bits on this. I think if you understand the history, then it helps you understand what is not supposed to be there. You can go by my video number 6 that had the USGS map that shows the fresh water. This goes into it in detail, and it shows the levees are defective, shows the history, this stuff that's not right, and you can start to see a pattern about their defects. Anyway, thank you for watching, and feel free to send a link to people to check it out if they're interested in getting a freshwater alternative and exposing the truth that is missing from the and the fraud that's occurring in the EIS, EIR for the wetlands. But also, let's put the truth out there about the fresh water and the freshwater alternative they're missing. And I appreciate it. Anyway, thanks.